بالعزة وتحدي كل خصام لا تبالي يا هزة وتحلي بالعزة وتحدي كل خصام
Meant to be doing this tonight.
Another project on the Palestinian genocide was never part of our plans.
Script in Hand Theatre specialises in local dramas, stories about local history and local issues, as many of you may know. So why are we doing this? Why have we changed direction?
After all, we did the Gaza monologues last year, so maybe we should return to some safer material, something a bit less controversial.
Yes, a drama about local suffragettes and their struggles to overcome the bigotry and the bias of a male-dominated society.
Or how about a history of wild swimming and the pollution of our seas and rivers?
Yes, we can get Southwest Water worried about that one. Right, yes, very important subjects. Subjects that we all care about. And we do hope that we will have time to do plays about those subjects. But they aren't crucial right now.
Palestine, however, is absolutely crucial right now. And here are a couple of reasons why.
Well, the first reason is that persistent feeling that we would go to our graves with the blood of the Palestine nation on our hands.
Sit quietly by as unarmed citizens, your father, my sister, your nephew, as they are incinerated by some of the most expensive, sophisticated, destructive weapons on the planet.
We watch it daily on our television screens as a regular part of the evening news programmes.
The revolution may not be televised, but the genocide is.
And then, guess what we do? We make a cup of tea.
We're not alone in this. It seems that most of Europe, indeed perhaps most of the world, has decided to look away, to wring their hands in anguish, but do nothing.
Sadly, it seems that genocide has become normalised.
The second reason for our performance here tonight is because day after day we read their stories, the horrific experiences that Palestinians endure almost daily. Listen to the words of Hassan Hazan.
Most people in Gaza still live in makeshift tents. They can't go home because of the occupation. And anyway, they probably do not have a home left to go to. Although there is a ceasefire, most schools remain shut, jobs are lost, and dreams are put on hold. It's as if time itself in Gaza has just stopped.
You can find accounts like this all over the internet about the destruction and the cruelty of the occupation.
And again, the Palestinian people pose the question to us.
Why? Why us?
What have we done?
Why will no one come to our aid?
And we have no answer.
So, we feel that, in our very small way, we have to keep their stories alive as long as we can.
And today's stories, which are all written in English, are taken from a Palestinian website called We Are Not Numbers. It's a charitable organisation that runs training programmes for emerging Palestinian writers through workshops and mentoring schemes.
Throughout the genocide, We Are Not Numbers continue to publish poems and stories to ensure that their voices were heard and their experiences documented.
And the encouraging news is that We Are Not Numbers has recently started to accept applications for a 2026 cohort. They've re-established an office in Gaza City and have recruited 30 participants.
So, we encourage everybody here to explore the We Are Not Numbers website, subscribe to their newsletter, and even buy their recently published book.
But what comes through in so many of the stories and poems is the hope, the optimism, the belief that one day they'll be able to return to their homeland.
It is these aspects of resistance, resilience and hope that we want to celebrate tonight.
But without overlooking the hatred and cruelty generated by the genocide.
Tonight, I am speaking the words of Amal Rafiq. Amal Rafiq is a writer and a student of English literature and language, and she believes in the power of words. Through her writing, she asks readers to pray for the people of Gaza and to never, ever forget what they have endured. And this, written by her, is a story of Amal, a girl from Gaza, Malak, and she is in fact her cousin. And this is her family's story about the displacement across Gaza since 2023.
I am representing Malak, and these are her words. Some stories are like shattered glass, sharp and impossible to hold without bleeding.
Malak had always been more than just my cousin, my uncle's daughter. The age gap between us was negligible, and we were always together at great, large, noisy family gatherings. Malak and I would be huddled in a corner, giggling about everything and nothing. Our voices would rise above the clatter of the plates and teacups.
We would gather in the front yard underneath the stars, wrapping ourselves in blankets and stories. We dreamed of the future.
We did. And of college.
Travel.
And love.
Reinventing ourselves.
But the Malak I saw after October 23 was someone else. Her face was pale, her body was thinner than I remembered, and she looked at me with eyes that have seen things no one should ever see. She didn't want sympathy, she wanted someone to listen to her story, which she told, unfiltered and slowly, struggling to find her voice sometimes. So I listened to her story, and these are her words. This is Malak's story.
Everything changed after October 2023. October had always been a time that is special when our family got together to harvest the olives. I loved the whole atmosphere of this ritual. Time with family, lots of laughter, the smell of my mother's cooking and of mint tea filling the air.
And this is our tomato story of the olive harvest, and it's called A Gentle Breeze and a Heavy Memory.
The olive harvest was more than just a seasonal event. It's a living memory that we experienced in every detail. We always woke up while it was still dark, having prepared everything the night before. Who would pick the olives? Who would spread the cloths? Who would make breakfast?
And they prepared the baskets for collecting the olives and the white cloths to spread under the trees so the green ones would fall on them.
And the sticks that could gently tap the branches with. We also prepared thyme and olive oil and pickled cucumbers, and we filled the flasks with tea, and we booked a small family bus.
But as always, they would forget something every single time.
Sometimes we forgot the mint for the tea, sometimes a knife or a spoon or a plate. Sometimes the cloths, so we would have to sit directly on the ground.
And sometimes, do you remember, you even forgot the water.
Yes, when we arrived, the sky was painted with the colours of morning, as if it was celebrating our arrival.
The women spread the cloths and the men climbed the ladders, and the sound of tapping the branches was like an old familiar song.
Under the large olive tree, my mum and aunts would prepare breakfast. Fresh bread, pure olive oil, special pickled olives, fresh thyme and tea with mint. That scent and warmth and sense of belonging, it still lives in my heart.
Of course, it wasn't just about the olives. It was about family. Every olive we picked was a promise to the land, and a promise that we would remain on our ancestral soil.
My grandfather would gather us around during breaks, telling us stories about the land, always saying,
We don't just plant olive trees, we plant our memories.
our olive harvest cannot be fully described in words. It's as complex as our survival through decades of brute force. It is us. Olives are our national pride. Every October comes as a new lesson for us. But the land is not forgotten. Memories are not lost. That we as children of the land, no matter how far we go or how far the aggressor scatters us, we will return and we carry our roots with us everywhere.
October is always a month of contrasts. Warmth and cold, endings and beginnings, sorrow and hope.
It carries the ache of what we've lost, but also the promise of return.
The olive tree also teaches us that branches may break, but they grow back.
And so do we. We bend, but we do not break. We keep hope alive. Hope is all around us. Hope is a must for us.
One day, when October returns with its gentle breeze, we will return to our fields, not as displaced people, but as farmers, as dreamers, as children of this land, and we will keep saying, we will remain here, as long as the olives and the thyme remain. But when war broke out in October 2023, Malak's family thought it would be like previous wars, didn't you?
Yes, a few weeks of bombing, a month at home with schools temporarily closed, and lots of time spent watching the news.
However, listening to that news and those news reports, Malak quickly learned that their house was in the danger zone.
So, my family immediately started to get ready to evacuate our home, as did other families. And the situation worsened rapidly.
Israel has ordered us to move south.
They thought that they would return to their homes in time to finish that olive harvest. But this war was clearly unusual from day one.
Please pack your clothes, but we can only take essentials. Quickly now.
I saw the fear in my father's eyes.
Of course, I didn't think we might never return to our home.
I felt torn between what to take and what to leave. I was 18 years old, and everything seemed precious. The house turned into chaos. But I remembered the sacks of olives under the stairs and insisted we take them with us. After all, they weren't just olives.
No, they were the last memory of the life we once lived.
we decided that we would move to a UN school, a shelter my family always fled to when war pounded on our doors. Chaos surrounded us, but we tried to maintain as normal a life as possible.
However, the situation escalated rapidly, and the sounds of explosions kept coming closer and closer. Many of our neighbours already evacuated to the south. Come on, hurry, hurry!
When the flares lit up the sky, casting a glow over our area, we knew that we were about to experience an unforgettable night. We hurried to gather our bags and place them by the door, ready to flee at any moment.
And suddenly a powerful airstrike hit our neighbour's house. The windows shattered and things started falling everywhere. Dust filled the air, making it hard to breathe. We felt that our turn was near and decided to leave as quickly as we could.
Blinded by dust and fear, we couldn't see anything, and in panic, we fled without a single one of the bags we had so carefully prepared. But we still hoped that we would return in just a matter of days or weeks.
After Malik's family fled from their home, they lived for many, many weeks in a state of complete shock.
A year of fear,
A year of sleeplessness.
a year of breathlessness,
A year of loss.
a year of nightmares,
A year of being dead.
a year of getting killed.
Day by day by day.
365 days.
Martyr after martyr after martyr.
Silence.
Bombs.
Ambulance calls.
Your friend was martyred.
Israel's cut the connections.
Strike in the neighbourhood.
Run, run.
Who died?
Who's alive?
No news?
Is anyone alive?
Where's my dad?
Is there any news?
Has anyone seen him?
How's my uncle?
Don't lie, he's martyred, yes?
I can feel it.
Exile.
So many people.
So much loneliness.
Panic attacks.
Loss after loss after loss.
Mohammed, Ibrahim, Khalid, Fariza.
Yusuf, Rushdie, Shahad, Mohammed Hamo,
Rifi, Abu Dhaka, Mara, Osama.
Abu Latif, Bilal, Wafa, Khalid and Salah, Kudai.
Massacres and more than 45,000 martyrs.
365 days.
Crying.
Can't shout.
Want to talk.
Can't talk.
Can't breathe.
365 days.
Green home turned grey.
Blue sea turned red.
Blood all around.
Bodies in the streets.
Your beloved ones are gone.
You're gone.
365 days of being gone.
I don't know me.
I can't recognise myself.
I need to breathe.
A year of being lost. A year of being dead.
I need to breathe.
That was Breathless in Exile, the words of Alaa Mahdi Kudai. Sometime after Malak's family moved to the UN, to the school there, Malak came across a young woman named Dima Al-Baisi.
But everyone knew her as the happiness maker. I first saw Dima at the UN school. She was carefully carrying a small pink box full of delicious-looking cupcakes, which she was giving to the children sheltering there. I couldn't believe my eyes.
I think I was about 10 years old when I began my first experiments with baking. Then, while I was a student at the university in Gaza, I started my own cake-making business online. I transformed my small bedroom into a mini bakery, and I filled it with the sweet aroma of vanilla and chocolate. I see every cake as a chance to spread hope.
She poured her heart into every single cake, believing that what she was creating wasn't just dessert to be eaten and forgotten. Every message was a message of love and heartfelt care.
Because watching the joy on children's faces as they received their personalised cake made every hour of effort worth it. The smile of a child looking at a cake can erase weeks and weeks under the occupation.
So, what made her bakery truly unique wasn't just the taste, it was the purpose behind it. Dima dedicated much of her work to baking for children with chronic illnesses, especially those suffering from hepatitis. She created special recipes without milk or eggs to protect their fragile health.
Children don't need that much to be happy. Their eyes light up at the simplest thing. My cakes are free. It's not about money. It's about humanity.
But one day, heavy shelling hit Dima's neighbourhood, including her own home. However, Dima continued to distribute cakes to children in refugee camps, clinics and the hospital.
Even as the sounds of explosions echoed through the streets, each successful delivery felt like a small victory in the face of such overwhelming adversity. And the joy on the children's faces, although fleeting, it just gave me the hope to carry on. Sometimes I would spend days just looking for a small amount of flour to make just one cake that would bring joy to a sick child. Each sugar flour is my form of resistance.
Throughout the genocide, Dima continued her work. She crossed dangerous roads. She walked through rubble-filled streets and risked her life to reach displaced families in the newly formed displacement camps. On each trip, she carried boxes of sweetness and messages of hope.
And many nights I wasn't sure that I would make it back home, but my desire to see the children smile, just to plant one moment of joy in their hearts, gave me the strength to keep going.
Dima's bakery became her personal form of resistance.
Because now we live in a world where even making a simple cake has become a miracle.
Dima begs for life, for the children, and to prove that happiness can still rise from the ruins. Despite losing her possessions, her home, even her sense of safety, Dima never lost her purpose. And that was Eman Ghassan Abizar describing the life of Dima, the happiness maker.
Quite soon after we moved into the UN school, a neighbour informed us that our house had indeed been destroyed. We used to wake up to bird song, not to the roar of warplanes and their merciless bombing with no end. In fact, our entire neighbourhood was wiped off the map. I felt shattered, as if a part of me was buried beneath the rubble. And then the news came a few days later that the Rashad al-Shawar Cultural Centre had also been destroyed.
And this is how Ohud Nassar described that destruction to Mama.
I remember when I was a student, I went on many memorable field trips to the cultural centre. I would walk through its long, captivating hallways, sit on the chairs of its conference halls and enjoy beautiful events and performances. But now, when I entered the centre and saw the destruction from the inside for the first time, my heart shattered into pieces with grief. The hall was now filled with tents, the courtyard with smoke rising from the open fire families were cooking on. A large water tank stood in the middle, with long lines of people waiting for a small share of water. The faces around me were exhausted, worn down by the heat inside the tents and the burdens of survival. The next day, I had a class with students. I was teaching in a short story writing course. I asked them, who among you has visited Al Shawa Centre and attended its cultural events? Many hands were raised. One of my distinguished students, Aya, spoke up. I had a piece of artwork displayed there, written in Ottoman calligraphy. I told her, excellent, Aya. She walked toward me, opened her notebook and showed me her calligraphy. Ottoman, Kufi, Rukwa and Nask. Her writing was beautiful and unique. I asked her, how did you learn these styles? She answered, my calligraphy teacher taught me at school. But the occupation killed her, and all her family too.
This occupation has destroyed our cultural centres, schools and universities in an attempt to impose ignorance upon the children of Gaza.
But our determination and resilience are stronger than that. We will learn and we will rebuild every cultural centre, every school and every university.
During this genocide, we lost our sense of what it means to truly live. The most basic human rights, clean water, electricity, safety, and even joy had gone. And we were preoccupied with daily struggles for survival. Water, taken for granted normally, had become more precious than gold. And electricity too had become a luxury, available only to those with small generators and solar panels. In the face of such deprivation, we stopped dreaming. We stopped expecting these basic necessities. And even the sound of children's laughter disappeared.
But one afternoon, as I was hurrying back to our shelter, I heard the strangest sound. A sound that I thought I would never hear again. The sounds of children talking and laughing. Sounds that felt they were coming from a different world. My curiosity followed the sounds, which led me to a small backyard with about 20, maybe 30 children sitting on the ground watching television. I felt a wave of emotions rush through me. First came nostalgia, a longing for the days when life was less burdened, when sitting in front of the TV with my siblings was just a normal part of childhood. Even I, at that moment, was pulled back into memories of laughter, safety, and innocence. Things we had all been forced to grow out of. Then came disbelief, because it struck me how children had been robbed of such ordinary joys. And finally, a heavy ache emerged in my chest. Not anger exactly, but a deep sadness. How could something as simple as watching a cartoon become such an extraordinary moment. And the young man, Ahmad Mohammed Abu Shawij, who had created this miracle, told me his story. Backyard cinema in a war zone.
Yes, like most families in Gaza, we'd been displaced several times, before eventually deciding that we'd return to our home after we heard that the shelling had stopped. We found our house had been badly damaged, but it was still better than living in a tent. There are few people and no facilities. Even solar charging points were nowhere to be found. So my family decided to buy a small solar panel system, so at least we could look after our most basic needs, charging a phone, getting a small lamp working. A few days after setting up the solar panel, we decided to turn on the TV for the first time in 7 months. 7 months. It started as a simple attempt to soothe my little sister, who'd been crying non-stop. We tuned into Space Tune.
Space Tune? A channel every child in Gaza knows by heart.
I don't remember exactly which cartoon was playing then, but I'll never forget what happened next. One by one, my older brothers and the children in our extended family began gathering in our living room. It felt as though we were hosting a grand event. No one wanted to miss it. After months of darkness and silence, the glowing screens lit up the room, and everyone's faces too. Everyone stared as if witnessing something magical, unheard of, something long forgotten. Their eyes weren't just reflecting light, they were radiating awe, curiosity, and something even deeper, life. After 3 or 4 days, I knew we couldn't keep it to ourselves. Every child deserved this simple pleasure, not as a luxury, but a basic right. So, we opened our doors to the neighbourhood kids. We invited all my youngest brother's friends into our small living room to watch their favourite cartoons, like SpongeBob and Tom and Jerry that lit up the screen.
And sometimes Masha and the Bear.
Oh yes, yes. Soon our modest living room could no longer accommodate the growing number of children who showed up. And that's when a new idea sparked in my mind. What if I transformed the backyard of our house into a small cinema? I went to a local carpenter with scraps of wood we had at home, and with them he built a mobile television stand. And now our backyard cinema was ready. We continued with the same routine, playing cartoons and adding small touches to make the atmosphere even more exciting. My mother began preparing popcorn and small snacks to hand out, adding a festive feel to the whole experience. Oh, those tiny details, sharing food, familiar people, and yes, laughter, helped transform our backyard into a pocket of joy, though in the middle of heartbreak.
For 5 months, and with the new equipment, they organised screenings not only in their backyard, but also in the Al-Aqsa Hospital, in schools, in temporary shelters, and other displacement camps.
And every event felt like we were trying to plant a small seed of hope.
Because even in the darkest of times, children deserve moments of light.
On one of the quieter afternoons, I was sitting with my mother, my 3 sisters and my twin brothers in that small space that became our temporary home inside the UN school. Finally, I thought we were in a safe place. And it was here that I met Roar, who told me about the power of reading.
War has a way of shrinking your world, traps you in a loop of worry and waiting. Every breath feels heavy, time stretches unbearably, each second dragging into the next. It bends and breaks, demonstrating every law of physics, no matter how contradictory, all at once. It's mocking our attempts to find meaning in its passage. But in this chaos and fear, I found my refuge in books. And e-books, because all the bookshops have been destroyed. While reading, time obeys no rules but my own. The world outside might crumble, but I rebuild my sense of self inside these stories. Some might call it an escape to worlds that don't exist, but to me, these words and these worlds hold a piece of my survival. Each one speaks to me in a voice of its own. Each one offers me a different kind of comfort, a constant anchor that, when everything else seems so uncertain, and the real world falls silent. Every time I finish a book, my world returns to its quiet stillness, but the voices of the books linger. The air raids, sirens, and the distant thuds of explosions, they're still out there. But I've built a fortress inside myself, brick by brick, with the words of these authors. Huxley, Steinbeck, Camus, Hosseini. Each book has given me a new way to understand the chaos, a different kind of courage. In Gaza, the war outside is raging on, but inside, I'm fortified by the stories. Stories that remind me that I am not alone, that I will find my way through.
Those words were written by Roa Aladdin Dismay in her story, My Refuge in Books.
And then an airstrike hit and an explosion followed. The walls of the school trembled and the ground shook. And within seconds, everything turned to dust and screams. The ringing in my ears would not stop. I grabbed my baby sister Kamal while my two sisters ran ahead of me, their tiny feet injured by shattered glass. I left my sisters with a neighbour who was helping gather all of the children in a safer corner of the school, and then I returned to look for my mother and brothers. Eventually, I saw my mother's body lying in a pool of blood, and I froze. I heard a crying sound, and I saw one of my brothers, who was still alive, but his twin was gone, and so was our mother. Everything after that became a blur. That night, my family gathered in a small, dark room, lit with a weak light, each of us burdened by grief. My father sat beside us in silence, his eyes filled with sorrow and regret.
I so wish I'd been there to protect my family.
Some days later, my father found a small house that we could rent, and we began living there with my uncle's family. My father tried to keep us engaged to make sure that we didn't feel alone. I felt like we were one family together, My uncle's daughters and sons were just like my sisters and brothers, and his wife became like my mother. We tried to carry on with life, but in our hearts, we all longed to return to our homes.
Mariam Mushtaha describes her longing to return to her home in the story, "Walls may fall, but memories remain the same."
I too had a deep desire to see my home, even if it was in ruins. But we could not go until the short-lived ceasefire was announced in January 2025. Then my brothers rushed to the area, only to find it unrecognisable. Our home was reduced to scattered walls. With no proper equipment, they could not recover anything from under the rubble. Yet they searched, hoping to find something that would hold the scent of home. Sadly, they found nothing. Then, some days later, they went back to the site, and they dug this time. They dug through the rubble with nothing but their hands, and an irrepressible sense of hope. This time, they came back with 2 big bags full of our things, and huge smiles on their faces, and we all eagerly searched through those bags. And I discovered my pink table lamp right there, that one. It was unscratched, even though it hadn't been covered in any way. It had been my companion through many a study session when we had electricity. Its attractive colour and its bright light made me keep it for a long, long time. And I also saw that I'd found my pair of silver earrings that I bought for my cousin's wedding, although the war stopped that happening. But there were also a few of my educational certificates. Those were intact as well. And very important, the gold watch I bought my brother for his birthday. It was undamaged, and he was so pleased to have it again. But the biggest prize of all from that retrieval operation was the photo album, because that had in it our family pictures. Amazingly, it was not even torn, and we spent 2 hours that evening looking at all the photos. It allowed us to remember the beautiful, simple moments that war had taken away from us, but moments that everyone should be able to hold on to. We were also happy with the joy of seeing these things again. It was beyond words. When we left so suddenly in October, we lost everything, even those crucial personal documents like our IDs and our birth certificates, things we needed to go on living in this time of destruction and devastation.
While others might consider these particular items unimportant, they carry deep meaning for each of us. Although we have not recovered any of the most important things, our hearts are overjoyed at having any fragment of the past that carries the scent of home. Some objects, though seemingly insignificant, are like close friends, holding stories, feelings and moments we never ever want to forget. To be without them is to feel alone. The war may have taken away the things we loved, but it cannot erase the memories we built with them.
I will treasure the things my brothers managed to recover from under the rubble. I will keep them safe because they help me to feel and still in my home. These items, although simple, mean so much. They are memories of every beautiful moment I spent in my room and in my home. As we say, walls may fall, but memories remain.
It was now September, almost a year after the occupation started. I woke up one morning with my normal routine, cleaning and taking care of my new, expanded family. My baby sister, Kumar, was my focus now. She had even begun to start calling me Mum. That day, my dad and my uncle returned from the market with things we needed, and we ate lunch. I did not think that that would be the final lunch with them. After lunch, my dad and my uncle got ready to go back to the market to work, where they sold goods. Before leaving, my dad told me,
I love you, Malak. Do take care of your sisters, I beg you.
and this touched my heart. And my uncle started hugging his daughters. I didn't understand at that time that this could be our final farewell. And if I had, I would not have let them go.
If I had known it was the last time, I would have pressed my hands to the walls of our home, felt their warmth like a quiet prayer, something I could take with me across the border.
Maybe I wouldn't have laughed and pushed away my Uncle Mohammed as he smothered me with kisses, kisses that said, I've missed you, I love you, you're home. I pushed him gently, smiling, not knowing he was martyred in December 2023. Now I would give anything to feel those kisses again.
And maybe I would have stayed longer in my room, not just to sleep, but to look at the way the sunlight spilled across the walls, to breathe in the air that tasted like belonging. Maybe I would have listened more to my relatives, to their stories, their laughter, their voices. I thought there would be more time.
If I'd known this was the last time, maybe I'd have sat longer in our garden, where jasmine crept up cracked walls and everything still felt alive. Maybe I would have found time to see my friend Shahad, to sit with her, talk with her, ask her everything. Shahad disappeared in December 2023. No trace, no goodbye, just silence. And pictures that feel more like ghosts now.
Maybe I would have stayed longer with Ibrahim and our friends that night on the beach, laughing, playing, sharing our dreams beneath a sky full of stars. Ibrahim dreamed of travelling the world, of photographing every place that his heart touched. He was martyred October 2023.
If I'd known this was the last time, maybe I would have spent more time at Al Bakar Cafe, our refuge, our shared heartbeat. We would gather there to play cards and to sing loudly over the sea breeze, to talk about dreams, heartbreak and the taste of life. The cafe felt like a second home. Israel destroyed the cafe in June 2025.
And maybe I would have talked more with my cousin Amada, who walked in while I was making coffee in the kitchen, holding a watermelon for my father, smiling and saying, We missed your coffee. Welcome back. Israel kidnapped him in February 2024, and we haven't seen him since.
If I'd known it was the last time, maybe I'd given my cousin Arhead more time to speak. I would have listened more deeply, laughed louder. He was martyred in June 2026.
Maybe I would have spent more time studying my friends' faces, really looking at them, really seeing them, before the light in their eyes began to dim under the weight of fear.
Maybe I would have walked Gaza's streets slowly, let the dust cling to me, let the air mark me with memories, instead of rushing from one place to another in taxis.
And maybe I would have sat longer by the sea, let it sing its stories into my skin, let it whisper that home is more than a place. It's a rhythm, a breath.
I didn't know Shahad would vanish without a trace, that I'd never hear her voice again, never see her eyes shining with life. Only memories, only photos, only silence.
Maybe I would have played more with my gentle 7-year-old brother, his hand always in his mother's, his smile wide and soft and full of light. He was martyred October 2023. If I had known it was the last time,
I would have hugged them all tighter.
My family,
My friends,
the streets,
The buildings,
the sea,
the sound,
the trees,
the cafe.
the garden.
the life.
If I Had Known It Was the Last Time. It was written by Ala Mahdi Kudain.
This is my will and my final message. If these words reach you, know that Israel has succeeded in killing me and silencing my voice.
تغطية مستمرة عبر شاشة الجزيرة حتى لو تم اغتيال أنس واغتيال جميع الزملاء.
First, peace be upon you, and God's mercy and blessings. God knows I gave every effort and all my strength to be a support and a voice for my people. Ever since I opened my eyes to life in the alleys and streets of the Jabalia refugee camp, my hope was that God would extend my life so I could return with my family and loved ones to our original town of occupied Asqalani, Al-Majd. But God's will came first, and His decree is final. I have lived through pain in all its details.
السيدة وهذا ما كنت أتحدث عنه قبل لحظات. وهذا ما كنت أتحدث عنه قبل لحظات أن الناس يسقطون الآن في شوارع غزة من شدة الجوع.
And I have tasted suffering and loss many times. Yet, I never once hesitated to convey the truth as it is, without distortion or falsification, so that God may bear witness against those who stayed silent, those who accepted our killing, those who choked our breath, and whose hearts were unmoved by the scattered remains of our children and women, doing nothing to stop the massacre that our people have faced for more than a year and a half. I entrust you with Palestine, the jewel in the crown of the Muslim world, the heartbeat of every free person in this world. I entrust you to take care of my family. I entrust you with my beloved daughter, Sham, the light of my eyes, whom I never got the chance to watch grow up as I had dreamed. I entrust you with my dear son, Salah, whom I had wished to support and accompany through life until he grew strong enough to carry my burden and continue the mission. I entrust you with my beloved mother, whose blessed prayers brought me where I am, whose supplications were my fortress, and whose light guided my path. I also entrust you with my lifelong companion, my beloved wife, Salah, Bayan, from whom the war separated me for many long days and months. Yet, she remained faithful to our bond, steadfast as a trunk of an olive tree that does not bend, patient, trusting in God.
Later that night, I heard a bomb not far away as we waited very anxiously for my father and my uncle to return home. And then my aunt got a call. My father and my uncle were both in the hospital. Shocked, we all ran to the hospital. But it was too late. They hadn't made it. I collapsed. The hospital was overcrowded, wounded people lying on the ground, some already dead, and others taking their last breaths. Mothers sat beside them, some crying and others screaming. I saw a burned child, and I saw a young man whose leg had been amputated. Doctors were rushing everywhere, trying to save lives. Journalists stood nearby, holding their cameras, capturing the disaster.
Sat on the floor in a far corner of the hospital, recalling the smiles of her father and her uncle before they left for work, remembering that final Friday lunch they had had together. The following words, written again by Ala Mahdi Kudai, describe the significance of Friday for Palestinians in the meaning of Friday.
In Palestine, Friday is a special day, a time for prayer and coming together with relatives, for reconnecting with the broader community.
On Fridays, the women wake up early. You can hear the soft rustling of brooms brushing floors, the clinking of plates being washed, and the low hum of the radio playing Surah Al-Kahf. Even in the sleep, you can hear their sacred verses vibrating through the walls, like a calm heartbeat, reminding you today is different.
Around 9 or 10 a.m, the rest of the family wake up to the smell of breakfast, fresh bread warming under a cloth, olives, cheese, hummus, tea steeping with mint leaves, and sometimes beans simmering in a pot.
Breakfast is the reunion of everyone who belongs to us. Uncles, cousins, grandparents gather in front of our homes. We bring the chairs outside and form circles in the sun, greeting each other with sleepy smiles. Children run around barefoot on the warm concrete. Someone will be playing with a neighbour's cat. Someone will sneak a piece of bread before everyone else has sat.
And before noon, men begin preparing for Friday prayers. They shower, iron their clothes, comb their hair, and splash cologne on their wrists. And when they leave, the house gets quieter. And that's when the women begin preparing lunch, talking, laughing, and sharing stories while peeling vegetables or spreading dough.
And around 11:30 a.m, the ice cream van passes by.
Well, it's not exactly ice cream, is it?
Oh no, it's Gazan Barat, a lemon-flavoured slush.
But the sound of his bell is enough to pull us out of whatever we're doing. Kids sprint into the street, money is shuffled out of pockets, and everyone buys for everyone. I can't remember a single Friday where I bought only for myself. That would feel wrong. Fridays make you generous without thinking.
When the men return from prayer, they change their clothes and sit down for lunch. On Fridays, nobody eats alone. If anyone's spotted fixing a plate only for themselves, And the neighbours will knock on their doors and insist that they come and eat with everyone else.
And lunch is rich and warm, full of life. Makluba, rice and vegetables layered with chicken and flipped upside down, steaming as the pot is lifted.
And gazan fatah, bread softened by broth and garlic, soaked until it almost melts.
And of course kabsa, long grain rice glowing with spice and scattered with tender meat.
And biryani, yes, fragrant with cardamom, its yellow and white rice streaked with saffron.
Then suddenly, a terrifying thought struck me. I had left my baby sister Kumar alone at the house. I ran back through the dark, with drones buzzing and ambulance sirens flashing. I couldn't lose her too. When I reached the house, it was full of darkness. I called her name, Kumar, and a neighbour answered with a voice that knew our pain.
Don't worry, she's safe. We heard her crying and we took her in.
I hugged Kumar tightly and returned to the others. We spent that night in the house of another one of my relatives, each of us speechless, trying to absorb the horror of that day. Some days later, we had to leave our little house, and now we had no other choice but to set up a tent on the nearby beach.
Months after that awful day in the suffocating heat of their tent, fear and hunger still press against Malik and her family like walls. The words of Sana Saleh carry these feelings in the last thread. I walk alone. I walk among the rubble of what was once our neighbourhood. I walk past the graves of memories and loved ones. I walk with no clear aim or direction through alleyways that once teemed with life and now are reduced to stones and silence. I walk alone, carrying that last fragile thread of life in me, still. I walk alone.
Life has become a heavy load that we can barely endure. Pain is permanently part of us now, even for my baby sister, Ma. It is carved into all our hearts.
Sama Zaher Zagut describes the life lived in a tent. In all roads lead to fear.
We've been living in the tent for about 4 months now. Winter is here. We're luckier than many. At least we have blankets to cover ourselves and some warm clothes to wear. But so many in Gaza have nothing. They are just waiting for their name to appear on an aid list so that they might get a blanket or some clothes. There's no money, no jobs, and the unemployment has drained the youth, killing their dreams. Today was awful. I spent the whole day inside the tent, just staring at its roof, swaying back and forth with the fierce wind and the rain, as if it might fly off at any minute. And this is a dome tent, which is better than most. Stepping outside is a struggle. It's almost always flooded. We might stay here in our tent in central Gaza another month, simply because we don't know if going back home would be the right decision or a mistake we can't afford to make. Once again, we are back to asking ourselves the same questions. Should we stay? Or should we leave? Now or later? We fear that if we return to the north, the war returns and we are ordered to evacuate. We fear that if we stay until the war ends, we will be suffering inside tents instead of finding a better place in the north. Should we wait until step 2 of the ceasefire? Because maybe it will make things clearer. Maybe they never become clearer. All roads before us lead to fear.
The sun rises over Gaza, piercing another suffocating night after the atrocities of an endless siege. It spills light softly across faces, hollowed by grief.
Amid the ruins, laughter blooms like flowers. The last sky of Gaza, a soundscape of birdsong and warplanes.
A cup of coffee resists and persists and reclaims morning from the grasp of an occupied night.
Our dreams are buried beneath the rubble. Our hands are stained with charred wood. Blood mingles with our flour. It flavours our bread. A bitter reminder of our fight for survival.
And you, who turn away, who refuse to see the damage in our streets, the faces weathered by hardship, etched into by untellable stories.
Look into our eyes. Yes, look deeply. And know us not as strangers.
See the blood mingled with tears as it streams down our cheeks. Smell the death that clings to the air, drowning out everything else.
You have seen all this, and yet you still pretend otherwise?
You can no longer pretend. You can no longer look away.
We see every shade of death. We smell its penetrating scent. We clearly memorise its appearance. We hear its constant whisper. We witness it devour.
Yet, still we breathe, still endure.
And cling to a flicker of life in a shattered city.
And that was Still Resisting by Huda Sky.
Our tent stands near the beach, and whenever the memories begin to haunt me, I sit on the sand and talk to the sea about my pain. The waves seem like a sorrowful response. I describe to the sea how gorgeous the sunset was, on the last day of the last olive harvest, and how much we had looked forward to waking up early the next morning so that we could go to the factory to have our olives pressed. And I told the sea that I longed to open my eyes to see my mother's smile once again, and for my ears to hear my father's voice.
And the final words today come from Ali Skaik in the Global Sumud Futua Stands with Gaza.
Since the beginning of this genocidal siege on the Gaza Strip, the sea has been turned into a wall of warships and weapons. But for so many of us, the sea has a different meaning. It's the last breath of hope and a symbol of freedom that no one can take away. It is by sea that friends who choose to defy the blockade approach us. Since 2010, many boats have set sail in an attempt to break the siege by sea, but all, sadly, have been unsuccessful. Still, their missions weren't in vain. We were deeply moved by this attempt because it came at a time when every Palestinian in Gaza felt completely forgotten. Just knowing that someone, even from so far away, still felt our pain gave us a sense of hope. Every time I see the people on board ship from places I've never been, people who don't even share my religion or my language or my background standing up for us, that it does something to me.
Those people leave their homes and their jobs behind, willingly sailing into danger because they believe we deserve justice.
Similarly, every time people from the Western world reach out to us with WhatsApp or Instagram, whether it's to say that they've read my writing or just to check in, it does touch me deeply.
As long as there are people standing with us, even from afar, I know that our voices and our stories are being heard. And we are not alone.
And even if the ships from the Freedom Flotilla don't reach us yet, it sends a message to the occupation that its crimes will not stop those who stand in solidarity with Gaza.
The sea sends a message louder than any war or weapon. The siege can close borders, but it cannot silence those who choose to stand with Gaza.